From the national newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Karen Rebo. The Liberals' Pharmacare bill has passed third and final reading in the House of Commons. It now heads off to the Senate.
The eventual goal is for Canadians to be able to access contraceptives or diabetes drugs and supplies by showing their health card, whether they have insurance coverage or not. The legislation also sets the stage for a future full-fledged universal Pharmacare program. The bill was the result of lengthy talks between the Liberals and NDP to avoid an early election. It's not yet clear exactly what drugs will be covered. Those will be the subject of negotiations with provincial and territorial governments. But the program is expected to cost $1.5 billion over 5 years. Jason White, The Canadian Press.
Ontario's police watchdog says it's investigating after a man was fatally shot by a Toronto police officer yesterday afternoon. The Special Investigations Unit says 911 calls were made about a man on Ellesmere Road threatening motorists. It says officers arrived and found the suspect in front of a medical building, wielding a hammer. It says one officer shot the man, another discharged a conducted energy weapon. The SIU says the man was taken to hospital but did not survive. The National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations marked Monday's 5th anniversary of a national inquiry's report into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls by blasting all levels of government for inaction in stopping the crisis. Cindy Woodhouse-Nepanak notes only 2 of the more than 150 calls to action focused on First Nations people in that report have been implemented since 2019. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says the federal government is acting on the issues raised by the inquiry. He notes it's partnering with the Manitoba government on plans to search a Winnipeg landfill for the victims of a serial killer. A Winnipeg judge has decided he will allow a forensic psychiatrist to provide expert testimony for the defense at the murder trial of admitted serial killer Jeremy Skibitsky. Prosecutors had expressed concern over the YouTube channel of Dr. Shahom Das, who assessed Skibitsky twice after his arrest in 2022 in the slayings of 4 Indigenous women. In one of the doctor's YouTube videos, he outlined steps to fake a mental illness. And authorities in Nebraska say a woman who was transported to a funeral home wasn't actually dead.
When 74-year-old Constance Glantz of Lincoln, Nebraska was transported to a funeral home, it was believed she was dead. She had been in hospice care at a nursing home and was declared dead at 9:44 a.m. Monday morning, but the local sheriff says somebody at the funeral home noticed Constance was breathing. Funeral home staff called 911, and now she's in a hospital and alive. Investigators call it an unusual case and say they've never seen anything like it. Alex Stone, EBC News.
This is the Canadian Press. In sports, the Toronto Blue Jays dropped the first game of a 4-game set hosting the Baltimore Orioles at Rogers Centre. Austin Hayes hit 2 of Baltimore's 4 home runs to power the O's to a 7-2 victory. Hayes and Anthony Santander each had 2-run homers. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hit a solo shot for the Blue Jays. The ex-interpreter for Los Angeles Dodgers star Shohei Ohtani is scheduled to plead guilty Tuesday to bank and tax fraud in a sports betting case. Ipei Mitsuhara is expected to admit to stealing nearly $17 million from the Japanese baseball player. There was no evidence Ohtani was involved in or aware of Mitsuhara's gambling, and the player cooperated with investigators. And the clock is ticking when it comes to Coach Bev Priestman's Olympic roster selection, with Canada's friendly against Mexico Tuesday night in Toronto providing another chance for the women to impress. Canada has until July 3rd to name an 18-player roster plus 4 alternates. From the Canadian Press, I'm Karen Rebo.